whip the bejesus out of this. Exercise the demon. Exercise the demon. In my world, if you don't eat your vegetables, you don't eat. But I'm kind of hardcore, I guess, when it comes to that stuff. Frankie says that I'm that mom. Hey guys, welcome to TCR. Sid here. Thanks for clicking on the video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Today we are a few days into the 30-day challenge that I issued for eating locally and from your own farm or homestead if you're able to. So I am going to go forage out in the garden right now for some goodies to add to a frittata that I am going to make tonight. Now, I have to give a shout out to Casey from Boots and Bounty Homestead there, because her channel, she did a frittata. I was like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? That's a perfect idea to utilize the milk, the eggs, the vegetables, and put it all together and make something yummy. So, shout out to you, Casey. Appreciate you. I'm gonna put a link down below there for their channel so you guys can go check them out. Really sweet people. I got to meet them at the meetup in Pryor, Oklahoma this last May. Here we go. Let's go forage for some food, guys. Back to the garden. Woo! To the garden. All right, so I'm gonna grab a few grape leaves. These are really great, yummy little bits of goodness. We use them for a lot of things around here. We've actually canned them before. I'm just gonna grab a few to add in. All right, let's continue on to the actual garden. Let's grab some carrots out of here. I don't know if Mike's gonna be mad that I'm pilfering his garden or not.
Possible.
Possible. All right, I think a few of those will be good. Let's see what else we've got going on over here. Chard that's looking a little angry right now. So I'm gonna try to steal some of it here. It's very hot today, guys. It's probably, I think it's just about 100.
I'd say a little over 100, maybe.
Well, when I looked earlier, that's what it was at. We'll take a little bit of kale. A little bit of kale, right? All right, just like that. We're gonna put this all into our frittata. Everything out of the garden. And we're gonna use milk from the goats and eggs from the chickens. Yada, yada, yada. Ooh, this is a big one right here. I'm gonna steal this one. Big old pepper. Oh, we got our, look at this. We're getting our first limes. We planted this tree about 4 years ago. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. You know, they always say when you get a new property, if it doesn't already have fruit trees, make sure you start planting your citrus trees right away. Well, we didn't. We waited a little while because life.
Sorry, there was a spider.
All right, because life. So now they're finally bearing fruit. I think that's it, but this is a pretty good haul. I think by the time I chop it all up and throw it in, I think this is gonna be a really good, simple dinner with just stuff from around here that we are raising and growing, and I think it's gonna be fantastic. The great thing about frittatas, it's a fabulous Italian traditional breakfast that you cook the veggies and stuff first, and then you're pouring the eggs on top of, and then you're just baking it off. So it's kind of like the perfect hybrid between a quiche and an omelet. If those two things had a baby, you would get an Italian frittata. And you serve them traditionally more like room temperature, like you do like with those like egg quiche cups kind of thing. I'm gonna be using my Le Creuset pan today, and I'm not sure. I've got two sides because it's got the grill top that's cast iron, but because it's got the grill thing in it, I'm not sure I want to do the eggs on that because it's going to make it all weird. How you say? Ceramic side. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. This will be good for in the oven. The nice thing about this too is because it's got the lid, if I wanted to flip it, you can go either way. You can flip it. It technically will be lighter and airier and more even if you do, but most people don't flip them. Most people just, once they're finished on the stove top and the eggs are sort of set up on the sides and it's time to stick it in the oven, they don't bother to flip it. So we're not gonna flip it unless I feel fancy. I don't think I'm gonna feel fancy though, but we'll see. I doubt it. I'm not feeling fancy today, so I don't know. So for this size pan, I'm actually gonna be doing kind of basically the same amount that I would be using for a quiche. I'm gonna be using about a cup of milk and I'm gonna be using about 6 eggs. And then, you know, depending if you're, you know, your farm fresh eggs are, some are bigger, some are smaller. If you wanted to do it with all egg whites, if you're feeling really fancy and you don't want to eat the yolks, you can do that too, but you're gonna have to use like 4 times as many because math. And if you're gonna do it with quail eggs, you're gonna be cracking eggs until the dawn of Aquarius. I don't know. Anyway, it's gonna be a thing. So I've got my oil in the pan nice and hot. I'm using olive oil today, but you can use lard or any other kind of oil you want. I'm gonna go ahead and throw my onions in first because I like to let them cook a little bit longer than everything else that I'm gonna be throwing in. So I'm gonna let those do their thing, and I'm gonna throw some garlic in. Because what would an Italian dish without garlic be? It'd be sacrilegious. That's what it would be. So we're gonna squirt some of this in here too. Again, this is garlic that might grew. And this is one of those great meals that you don't need a recipe, you don't need to measure, you don't have to time it perfectly. It really is forgiving. It's just, you know, I've done videos on these before. It's been a while since I've made one. It's great. While the onions are doing their thing, I'm just slicing up some of the other ingredients that I'm going to be adding before we move on to the next step. Now, traditionally, a lot of frittatas also have some potatoes in them. So we have some potatoes that Mike grew that he pressure canned that I'm actually going to go ahead and throw in here. And these potatoes are cool because he did some rosemary in here, so they've got a nice flavoring, and I'm going to throw them in here with the onions. They do have quite a bit of moisture in them, so I'm kind of almost using them in a way to kind of crisp them up right now. I'm going to kind of chop these up, let them kind of deglaze the onion pan a little bit because they're moist. The onion and garlic, I should say. And these are very flavorful because they were canned with garlic and rosemary. So these are going to be a nice little addition in. Put that in there. Rocking and rolling here. We go ahead and add a little bit of pepper. Now we didn't grow the pepper, but the onion, the garlic, the tomatoes, the carrots, the kale, the chard, what else? The eggs, everything else we've done here. I'm adding some carrots in. I just stir these around. I'm gonna go ahead and get my Swiss chard and my kale ready to go in. I'm actually gonna do the stems of the Swiss chard almost like you would with celery. So I'm going to chop these up first and throw them in. And again, this is like not really a recipe. It's grabbing what's ready from the garden and just making it work. Just rocking and rolling with it. And that's the great thing about frittatas, quiches, those kinds of things is, and I always do crustless ones anyway, which is basically a frittata. It just generally, the frittata doesn't have as much cheese mixed in, like the way that a quiche would. A quiche is usually like almost equal parts milk and cheese. Oh, I forgot about my pepper. I need to get my pepper in there. Get that bad boy chopped up. Got my grape leaves. I've got my fresh basil over here too. There's nothing better than adding a bunch of nice leafy greens to this kind of dish too. It's a really great way, especially if you've got either a picky eater husband or picky eater kids that are like, I don't like vegetables. You can sneak this in chopped up really little, and then if you layer it right, they have to really be partway into eating it. Now I like to mix mine in really evenly, but if you have to be sneaky, you know, and maybe add extra cheese or something to sneak it in, hey, do what you gotta do. In my world, if you don't eat your vegetables, you don't eat. But I'm kind of hardcore, I guess, when it comes to that stuff. Frankie says that I'm that mom. That's alright, I'll be that mom all day long that makes you eat your vegetables, and I will. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn my oven on, and I'm going to hit it for 375. And I'm going to go ahead and add in, I'm like, where'd they go? My tomatoes. If I had white wine, I would use that. For some reason, I don't have any right now. I'm actually going to add just a little bit of water, just to help deglaze the bottom of the pan. Now, this is the cool part, guys. I'm going to chop up my basil in here, and I might add some more on the top later. We'll see. I might move the other basil, so I might have to go hunting for them in the garden. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in. I love throwing greens in here. I love it. And they get that little bit of wilt. Now, I have not seasoned this as much because those potatoes have a lot of salt, a lot of pepper, a lot of garlic. So I haven't really added any more salt, except I did to my eggs. I did salt and pepper these kind of heavily because, you know, eggs. And I've got my goat's milk here that I'm using because we have goats. So I'm actually going to whisk this, and that's just a cup. And I actually ended up doing 7 eggs because one of the eggs was a little on the wimpy side. Now, pro tip, if you really, really want this light and fluffy, if you have an immersion blender, you can totally bust that out and aerate these eggs. And it will make a difference. I'm not doing it today because I'm filming and I'm running late for getting dinner on the table. And while this is in the oven, I have to go milk a goat. So that's light, right? So I'm not gonna get out yet another thing for me to wash when it's all said and done. But you're gonna just basically, you know, whip the bejesus out of this. Exercise the demon. Exercise the demon. You want it like nice and airy, okay? As frothy as you can. Do your thing, do your thing. Just stir this a little bit. Whew. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pour this in. Squished in, it's on a lower heat because you just want it to cook on a low heat. That's also one of the differences kind of between like an omelet or a quiche and a frittata, is that you're cooking on the stovetop at a lower heat once you add the eggs and stuff, and then you're putting it in the oven for a little while. So I'm just kind of mixing that in all the way. I'm gonna let that sit for probably, I'll put up my hair, it's a little bit low. I'm gonna let that sit for probably about 2-3 minutes, and then it's gonna be time to slide it into the oven. I am also going to sprinkle some of my goat cheese in here while it's sitting here kind of simmering. You can do whatever cheese you want, or you can omit the cheese if you don't, but this is like this last week's goat cheese that's kind of left over. I'm gonna be making more in another day. So I'm just kind of looking for it to kind of start to firm up on the sides a little bit. And I can see it's kind of starting to puff up. So it probably needs about another minute of just being here on the stovetop. So my oven's almost up to temp. I'm just 100 degrees away, which is not the same as 6 degrees of separation or Kevin Bacon or any other game you might be playing. It's really hot in here, guys. It's no joke. It's warm. It's warm. I feel like a 65-year-old named Shirley right now. It is warm. Lordy. All right, so it's just starting to pull away from the sides, you guys. I'm gonna try to hold it so you guys can see. It's still a little bit liquidy, but it's starting to puff up on the side. That's perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in the oven. It's not quite up to temp, but it's super close, and our oven heats up pretty fast. So I'm gonna check this in about 15 minutes. Okay guys, you hear Tim from Ridge Life in the background. I'm like watching his live while I cook, and Boots and Bounty and Homestead are in there. So I was telling them, I was like, I'm making a frittata tonight in your honor, because they just did a video on making frittata from stuff around the farm. And since I'm doing that 30-day challenge, I was like, perfect, why didn't I think about a frittata? That's amazing. So shout out to them. Shout out to Tim at Ridge Life, because he's keeping me entertained while I was waiting for this to finish off. So, and I'm telling you guys, oh Lord, I am fitzing like a hungover preacher on Sunday morning. It is hot in here. Lord have mercy. And I'm in front of this oven, so let's see how this is looking. I think it's close, but it's not quite there. I think I need a couple more minutes, guys. I'm gonna toss it back in, but it's getting real close. Let's do like 2 more minutes, and then we'll take a peek. All right, so my timer just went off. So it's been in for approximately 20 minutes now, because I actually had to run when the timer went off the first time and go change my battery, and the battery got stuck because it was an old battery and it was like getting bloated. Danger, I know. So I ordered new batteries, so they were charged finally, and I just switched it out, and it went in like butter. So it's all good. Crisis averted. So let's see how this is looking now. I'm gonna go ahead and stick a knife in the middle just to kind of see if it comes out clean for funsies. If not, then it's gotta go back in. Oh, it's pretty good. I think it's good. Plus, I'm tired of having the oven on because it's hot. Did I mention that? Yeah, I think I did. So I'm gonna let this sit and cool. And then basically you're just gonna, you know, let it cool. You can eat it at room temperature, so it's a cool thing. If, you know, leftovers, you can eat it cold even. You can eat it at room temperature. It's just it's a very forgiving family meal, and it's a really great way to clean out your fridge. I've done it several times where I've made them on like kind of the end of the week. So on Sundays, I'll make like basically a frittata. Sometimes, you know, it comes out a little differently depending on what I have available, but it's a really nice way to use up the remainder of your vegetables for the week that you have sitting in your fridge, or things that you need to pull from the garden that you forgot about or whatever. It's a great way to kind of use everything up, It's a nice little protein thing. It's an easy thing for, you can even do it if you want the same recipe basically and pour it into the silicone things and make egg cups. I've done that a million times. Finish them off in the oven, you're good to go. I hope you guys enjoyed my one of my meals out of my 30-day challenge that I self-imposed on using locally or home ingredients. Everything is from here. Every single thing is from here with the exception of the black pepper and the salt. Everything else we raised, grew, or harvested. So I'm excited about that. I can't wait to dig into this. Don't forget to like the video, guys, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you get the notifications.